haven't done one of these in a little while. Welcome to my basement, everybody. I've been busy trying to keep up with all of the games that have come out, and I've had a crazy year. But Ryan Payton, my good friend, who I've known for a very long time, has launched a huge game, Batman Arkham Shadow, for MetaQuest 3 and MetaQuest 3S. I played it. I loved it. I reviewed it. You guys quoted me in some of your marketing stuff, and then you reached out and said we should chat. You want to get on a Zoom and chat and get caught up. And I did intend to reach out and chat with you. I've just been busy, as I know you have been busy. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, Victor Lucas, it's so fun to be back on your show, and I was just thinking about how we've been friends and we've been able to work together on certain things for many years, going back to Metal Gear Solid 4 and 2007, 2008.
Yep.
You
almost 20
you
years,
produced,
man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. You produced the big, huge documentary we put into the Blu-ray for that
Yep.
game.
Nearly
And then,
killed
yeah,
both of
obviously.
us.
Yeah, that was a crazy project. Like one of the worst days of my life. No, it has nothing to do with you. One of the worst days of my life was when I arrived at Vancouver International Airport with all of the company's history on all these tapes that you guys are going to transcribe. And then as my luggage is coming out of like the baggage claim carousel, it's just tapes.
Yeah.
The
The
luggage like
box destroyed.
exploded. Yeah, in the process. It's the whole Metal Gear Konami company history with no backups out there in the carousel. That was just one of many stories that we went through
But
over.
everything was fine, and we digitized all of that, and there was like 300 hours of footage that we digitized and went through, and tons of it is in the documentary. I think it's still, I think, the thing I'm proudest of, the doc that we made
It's
together.
a really
It's
good
it
one.
was it was amazing, and kudos to Kojima-san and the whole team there to see the whole vision through. Like, let us travel to see your folks, and then we went to Dallas for something, and I think, and we went to Washington D.C. and
That's
we saw
right.
all the stuff with Logan and all the behind the
Yeah,
scenes on the video content. Hung out with David Hayter for a big chunk of time too. That was just magical, man. It was
really
incredible.
special. Really special.
Yeah, yeah. And you pivoted from Kojima and went on lots of other adventures in game development. Worked on the Halo team for a while and worked with 343 for a while, but eventually ended up founding Camouflaj and getting into smaller scale indie development and thinking of, looking at mobile as sort of your entry point, but then sort of growing from there. And then you found your path and carved out your own sort of direction in VR. You've told me this before, but just recount a little bit of why Camouflage decided that VR was the right choice for the studio.
Well, when I started Camouflage as an independent studio back in 2011, we didn't have much money. We did a Kickstarter. Electric
Yep.
Playground was a big help with that. We did something at FanFest up in Vancouver and helped
Yep.
really boost that whole Kickstarter we had. And that was the story of Camouflage for the first 5 years or so, was just scrappy, just barely getting by.
Yep.
And we released our first game, Republic, which we're really proud of. But the reason why we pivoted to VR in like 2016, 2017 was purely out of necessity. It was the burgeoning sector of the game industry in which there was funding for, and typically companies like Sony or Meta, or at the time Oculus, they were looking for studios that are smaller, willing to take risks, willing to try out new technology, and we were the perfect fit. And
Yep.
that's around the time that we signed Republic VR with our friends at Oculus for the Oculus Go as launch title in 2017, and
Right.
around the time that we did that bigger signing that eventually led to Sony and Marvel, where we did Marvel's Iron Man VR for PlayStation VR.
And so that felt like a risk, but also a calculated one because the money was there, the appetite for new games was there, and your team was attracted to, I guess, first of all, just staying afloat and staying
Yeah.
together, but also, I think probably saw and still see and are still breaking down barriers, as we're seeing with Arkham Shadow, all of the potential that VR games kind of provide for a studio, right?
Yeah, you're helping me remember that back in 2016, when we were between projects, we
Hmm.
had $30,000 in the bank, and I had
Wow.
35 employees, and things were tough and scary.
Wow.
And when I
Yeah.
went on a road trip to sign our next project, as I mentioned, VR an opportunity potentially for us. But when I went out on that 2 week tour to save the company, the team asked me, well, what should we do while you are going out and saving the company? And I said, I don't care. I'm gonna go find us a project. They said,
Yeah.
do you mind if we experiment with VR? I said, I don't mind at all. And that actually helped really significantly when I went and then heard about some of these opportunities, because then I could show them this demo that we created. The
Yeah.
team did independently of me. It was ironically, one of the best things I've ever done as a company was when not around and just kind of trying to save the company. And it was this amazing demo that helped us sign Iron Man. So I think it was a combination of the opportunity, but also the team just really fell in love with the technology and the immersion that VR and eventually MR brings.
You know what a fan I am of Iron Man, and you and I talked about that when you launched it, and I think also when you brought it to the
That's
Quest,
right.
and you guys did an incredible job both
Thank you.
times. And I have had this ongoing conversation with my viewers about the need for a few things around VR, and I know you're familiar with some of my comments around VR.
Yes.
But I think the main thing that VR really needs is things like Iron Man and Batman, and to some extent we've got an Alien game that's about to hit. We've got the Metro game. I think is
Yeah.
very successful
Yeah.
right
It's
now.
very good.
Yeah, and I think this idea that there's some familiarity, and not to downplay the inventiveness of VR and the independent development kind of chutzpah that VR developers have out there, and they're certainly charging forward with really cool concepts that then can be siphoned in or borrowed from for licensed properties or sort of more well-established properties. You proved it with Iron Man that you have this known entity that gets people to put on that headset and become something that they're familiar with already. And you're doing that again with Arkham Shadow. Like your company now is at the forefront of like you're going to be doing speeches about that. And like I'm just curious about your thoughts about taking the next level of education around VR and using the familiar to help get more people on board.
Well, I think you nailed it when you talked about the importance of games like Iron Man, and now what we've done with Batman: Arkham Shadow, or Metro Awakening, or the upcoming Alien game. There's the familiarity of those franchises that brings people to the platform,
Yeah.
which we're all excited about. We all know that the hardware is terrific, but we're out here just promoting out what that experience is what you can have with these franchises and these worlds that you love, but when you actually start developing it, the most important thing is to deliver the fantasy of becoming
Yeah.
a character in that world.
Yes.
And that's something that we focused so much on with Iron Man VR, and then obviously with Batman Arkham Shadow, this whole sense that I think we ended up proving out and being able to see that it worked when we were watching people play the game and watching reviews from you and others, in which you've got footage of people. You got the full arms, you got the gauntlets. You look down, you can see the bat symbol. You got your batarang on your chest.
Yes.
You got your legs. You got your utility belt, and then you got the
Transcendent.
shadow
Yes.
projected onto the world. And wait a second, I'm Batman. I'm Batman,
Yes.
and I feel like
Yes.
Batman more than I've ever felt like Batman.
Yes.
And that is only due to the strengths and the just the greatness of like the MetaQuest hardware and other VR hardware and MR hardware as well. But yeah, that's the dream. That's what we have to deliver, and I think that's what the team at Camouflaj did such a great job doing out in the game, I think.
Do you think you guys, your team, and I know it's a different team and a bigger team now doing, I mean, I saw the credits. That was some serious
That's a long credits.
investment. Yeah, to get this game across the finish line. And kudos. I mean, congratulations. It's just a
Thank you.
masterpiece. But do
Thank
you
you.
think your company could have done Arkham without Iron Man?
Oh, it wouldn't have been as good. I think we're scrappy. We fight. You know me. I don't give up, and the team
Yeah.
that's in the core DNA of the project and of every project we work on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that the experience that we built off from Iron Man, even though it's a completely different experience. In Iron Man, you're flying at 300 miles an hour,
Yeah.
shooting, ground pounding. The whole fantasy is so different. That's more akin to an Ace Combat game than
Right.
it is a first-person brawler like we end up pivoting to for Arkham Shadow. But
Yeah.
it all contributes. It's not just our experience working on Iron Man and then learning from our mistakes and leaning into our strengths with the next project. But it's the whole collective of all of these developers who are making immersive content, because we're playing all of these amazing games like Asgard's Wrath 2 and Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed Nexus, and
Yeah.
we're all learning because the playbook, Vic, of developing VR games is so thin. We've only
Yeah.
been really at it. I know VR's been around for 25, 30 years, but really the game industry kind of getting around development of this is
Yeah.
only really in the past like maybe 8 years or so.
Totally.
So we are all just it makes me really excited about the future because
Yeah.
there's developers who are going to be playing Arkham Shadow thinking, oh, that's how you do full body IK, or that's how you can do combat. I didn't know you could do combat that way, or that's how you can do locomotion. And that's how you can fly around and feel comfortable with the cape glide with Batman.
Yeah.
It's all going into that contribution for us all as developers to create bigger and better content.
Did you fly to London and hang with Rocksteady and some of the Batman team, some of the people the veterans that have worked with Batman? Like, how do you sustain that through line? It's not only a fantastic VR, just like I said in the review, it's not only a fantastic VR showcase that really lifts the technology and makes it palatable and accessible for everybody, but it's connective tissue to the rest of these incredible Arkham games, and it feels like it butts right in there. And I'm just curious. I know stakeholders all over the place with this one, but were you actually able to hang with Rocksteady and just sort of sync with their vibe a little bit?
Well, what we were able to do,
Hmm.
and I can't imagine how this game would have turned out without my persistence in basically stalking two individuals who had left Rocksteady
Right.
after Arkham Knight on one title, and then a gentleman who had shipped all of the Arkham games at Rocksteady, included from
Yep.
Arkham Asylum,
Yep.
as a gentleman named Bill Green, who I just consistently and constantly emailed on over the course of about 6 months, asking him, begging him to talk to me because he was a design lead for all those Arkham titles. He was doing his own indie project in Unity, own
Mm,
company, and I just asked him to consult with us. And finally got him on the call, and I told him what
brilliant.
we were doing, and he said, because he had worked on Arkham VR, which I know you played and
Yes. Yep. That
you've
was
covered.
cool.
And
Yep.
it's cool. It's one
Yep.
2 hour experience. There's no combat. There's no real locomotion. You don't fly around. You don't do all the
Yep.
core Arkham action as much as you do in Arkham Shadow. And when I
Yeah.
told Bill what we're doing, he said, I don't think you can pull off the combat in Arkham into VR. I don't know if it's possible. We thought about it when we decided we couldn't do it. And then
Yeah.
and then I said, well, would you play our prototype? He played it, came back and said, okay, when do we start? And so with Bill Green on the project, we were able to be educated about all the things that he knew and all he understand about the magic that Rocksteady brought to the franchise, and also his
Yeah.
colleague Sophie, who worked on Arkham Origins at Warner Brothers Montreal and then shifted over to Rocksteady for Arkham Knight. She also brought such incredible talent and knowledge and nurturing to our team that, in addition to the support we got from Warner Brothers and DC, who are
Hmm.
the shepherds of the franchise, that combination of the staff that we were able to bring on full time into Camouflaj, plus the guidance that we got from Warner Brothers Interactive and DC, that was our secret sauce to ensure that this game felt like it's an authentic new entry into the Arkham franchise.
Yes, and Arkham is that operative word. It's not just Batman. It
That's
really
right.
feels, right down to Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker kind of reprising their roles. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but and then Troy going off in some other stuff as well. Yeah, like it's a tour de force because we also did the making of Batman Arkham Asylum, which is kind of crazy.
I,
Right around the time that
yes, I've watched it.
yeah, just doing the Metal Gear project, I think just before. And one of the things that was amazing about that whole project was how Hollywood it was. We had these guys in London making the game, but so much of the storytelling and the voice work and the production was coming out of Warner Brothers and their huge studio and their incredible assets and their resources. Did you have access to that as well?
So the way that the partnership that we had with Warner Brothers Interactive is actually quite different than the other internal studios that they have, and that's
Hmm.
why I didn't directly answer your question about Rocksteady because it's kind of two separate streams. You've got your first part, you've got your publishing arm and developers of Warner Brothers who are doing the Harry Potter game and Mortal Kombat and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. And then you've got
Yeah.
this other group, which is run by Ben Elliott, that does more of the licensing kind of partnerships. And so
Right. Right. Right.
that's the group that we worked with. So there was actually like a very clear separation of church and state, because out of respect to Rocksteady, because when we started Arkham Shadow, the Suicide Squad game actually wasn't even announced, and there's sensitivity, and we wanted to respect what they're doing, and
Right.
but that being said, because it's not our franchise, we're not part of Warner Brothers. Everything that we wanted to do with Arkham Shadow was sent over to Rocksteady for their blessing, and thankfully they granted it, and we've got a good relationship with them. And but we didn't sit down with them and trade notes and kind of devise the game together. It was really more again about kind of like respecting the two different groups that we had, and like the collective tissue, the glue that kind of tied everything together was the team that we worked on with Warner Brothers and Randy Ma and Joe over at DC.
Well, I mean, I think that just speaks to how, remarkable, even more remarkable the game is. You had that sort of one step remove from the Batman sort of stakeholders. What's that relationship like now? I mean, this is a massively successful title, I imagine. I imagine it's moving Quest 3 S's like crazy right now, and lots of people are becoming the Knight. What's that relationship with Warner Brothers like now and Rocksteady?
It's hard to talk about without getting a little bit emotional, because with you've talked to game developers for
Yeah.
decades, and you know how hard it is.
Yep.
And I'd be curious if you've ever met a game developer who tells you, yeah, it was kind of smooth sailing the whole time, and then we shipped a great game. It's I just it was a hard project, really hard project, and there were some real dark times. So when we get messages like from Rocksteady or from Warner Brothers or from DC or from internal within Meta or from you and other people just celebrating this game, it's still, I have to kind of pinch myself, because it wasn't that way for 99.8% of the development cycle of this title, and now it's all celebration, and the team can kind of sigh a sigh of relief, and so yeah, I think everybody's really happy with the way that the game turned out, and I won't name names, but there was somebody who really helped early on in the project, kind of consulting and kind of guiding me, somebody I really respect within the industry. And he played the game recently, and he sent me a message, and he said two things that really stood out to me. He said, one, he said, what I think you guys did with Arkham, with how hard hitting you were with the story, is he said, it's almost like you guys took, rather than like the Shield TV show approach to drama, you took the Wire approach to drama. You guys didn't hold back in this Batman game, and he really applauded that. That really meant a lot to me. And the second thing is, he said that I would have when we kind of worked together on like the main beats and the themes and some of these moments, I know you're reluctant to talk about because we don't want to spoil it, but he said, I totally expected after a few years, once you release this thing, a lot of that would have been watered down or cut, because it's pretty dramatic what we did. And he said he was really proud of me to defend the core creative despite all the challenges you have. And then I followed up and said, but you also have to give credit to our partners. They let us cook. Yeah. They kept encouraging me, kept slapping me on the back and said, keep going, dude. And I the whole time I didn't believe them, because I thought at the end of the way, like, last 6 months, pull the rug from under me, because we're doing some pretty crazy stuff in this game. Yeah. And they never did. They really did respect the creative process, and I have a lot of credit due to everybody who supported us throughout this whole game.
I mean, kudos, my friend. That's deserved and fantastic to hear. Let's talk a little bit about some of the brick walls. Some of the things. What was the most difficult or upsetting or challenging part of making this flow? Was there a key part of the game that you really wanted and it just wasn't clicking, it just wasn't working, or was it just trying to tie all of this really complex technology together and finding the game flow there?
Well, like I needed like 2 hours for a GDC retrospective, going off all the
You're going to be doing those,
and I would love to, and it's going to be hard to cram in all the mistakes that we made and what made this so hard. But I think at the highest level, I'd say that it was a combination of us having to go through that creative process. That's really difficult no matter what project you go through. It's
Hmm.
at the beginning, it's blue sky. Everything sounds great. And we know what we're doing and we can execute on this thing. Actually, we don't even need that much time. I think we can deliver this thing early, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And then you start working and the team gets excited and you get more ideas and you got more ideas and you try different things. And midway through the project is when I realized that only now do we understand Arkham. We didn't
Right.
understand Arkham when we came up with the initial ideas because we hadn't worked on the Arkham franchise before. We didn't have Bill and Sophie on the team. And
Right.
Warner Brothers and DC were very patient with us and me. In my initial pitch, I was pitching stuff that is completely incompatible with the Arkham lore.
Right.
And they just nodded and they just I think they figured I was going to learn over time, but it's impossible for me to expect me over the course of a 3-month pitch cycle to know
Yeah.
everything about Arkham. But
Yeah.
I think what they saw was the passion and the dedication. And so midway through, redo everything because this is incompatible with Arkham, and the fans want it to be consistent. The fans want it to be canonical, and they want
Yeah.
us to respect the existing games, and we need to respect the game. So we got to throw out a lot of this stuff. So that was one big problem that we had. And then the
Wow.
second big problem
How
was
ma- how far into development were you then?
probably midway through, I would say.
Like a year, 2 years, or
Probably 2 years into development is when,
ouch.
because we did this thing where we required the whole team to play every single Arkham game, and we wanted to do
Yeah.
it not over a week or two, but we wanted to kind of do it every quarter to kind of
Yeah.
learn and reflect and discuss.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's so
Seep
much
in it.
education.
I
Yeah,
know
just seep, yeah,
and they're
exactly.
massive games. I know they're just massive. They're so
And
replayable too, and that's what you guys built with this one too.
they are, and I don't think I loved Arkham. In
Yeah.
fact, well, no, I hated I hated Arkham Asylum because it was so good. I was so angry
Yeah.
at how good
Yes.
it was because I was just coming off after Metal Gear Solid 4. I was like, wow, they did a lot of these mechanics even better. I feel like, but big respect for them. But I didn't respect how in depth, as you mentioned, how complex and multi-layered
Yes.
it really was until we started to
Yes.
go into it. I'm thinking, Vic, wow, these Arkham games are crazy. These Rocksteady and Warner Brothers Montreal teams,
Yeah.
they really went for it, and we have to go for it too, and we have a lot to learn. So yeah,
Well,
about
you remember
18 months
Asylum
into it or
had
so.
Paul Dini on it, right? They
They did.
had like Batman legends working on this stuff. Not to mention Conroy and Mark Hamill and people that are incredibly familiar with
That's right.
bringing that the lore and all of the Batman animation people working in collaboration, plus DC Comics and all of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, they peppered it, and
They did.
something very interesting about the design philosophy for Asylum that is mirrored, and I said this in the review with Shadow, is that there's a containment. It doesn't overextend. It doesn't try to be city before it's Asylum. You
Yeah,
know?
you're right, and that was a big part of our pitch to Warner Brothers at the beginning was, hey, we're not gonna sit here and tell you we're going to create an Arkham City or an Arkham Knight type of open world experience as our first foray into Arkham. We're also doing this at 72 frames per second on the MetaQuest 3 hardware, where we have to render it twice. It's a mobile chipset. We're gonna look at Arkham Asylum not only because we feel like people are ready for another Arkham Asylum type of game, but that containment that you talked about, that focus and that scope that Sifton Hill
Yep.
and Jamie and the team pushed forward with Arkham Asylum back in 2009 was our North Star from a scope perspective, structure perspective, and I think that was the right move.
Yeah, you can feel the editing involved in all of that, and whittling it down and just paring it down, and then also embellishing every nook and cranny and every corner.
That's right.
This is going to air. I'm gonna put this up after the review, but I'm playing Indiana Jones right now, and I think you're going to see this a lot, and you probably already have started to hear from friends across, but that is begging to be a VR experience because it's all first person.
Yeah.
You're throwing the whip out like that. There's a tighter field of view on it as well. It feels like. And I just bought a big TV because I bought the PlayStation 5 Pro. So I have this
Yep.
massive
Oh, cool.
65-inch TV and this tiny little gaming nook that I have. And one of the last games I played was Shadow, and I took the headset off and I was Batman, and now I'm Indiana Jones, and it just feels like we're ready to do more. And I think that is also something that you're going to have to wear too, is that you showed that we can take not only the familiar characters, but the most familiar characters and turn them into excellent VR game experiences. And I can't wait to talk to you about Indiana. It's really good. And like Shadow, it is very true to the property. It's very faithful to the Indiana Jones property and made with a tremendous amount of love. It's way bigger though, and like it's like a big game where you're traveling all over the place. It's not like you're inside of an
Yeah,
area.
it looks amazing, and I'm
Yeah,
so happy that that Troy Baker was able to get that role,
he's so good.
he's so good, and he was so it was Arkham Shadow was the first time I got to really work with him closely
Right.
on any project, and I knew he was good,
Yeah.
and then I really got to witness it firsthand, where I'm getting texts at 2 in the morning about character motivations and wanting to redo something that he felt like could be better, or can he get on this phone call with this consultant we have about mental health and this clinical psychiatrist who was helping
Yeah.
guide our story and how we're approaching all these things, because he wants to learn more about dissociative identity disorder to inform him as he's performing his character. It's unbelievable.
Incredible. And you know what? You feel that in the game too.
You do.
Like you really feel the sensitivities and the maturity that you guys handle what these villains are going through and what these different characters are going through, including Batman. Like they're all broken. They all kind of belong in Blackgate together in a way, right? And
That's right.
yeah, it's marvelous. And honestly, I told Kevin what his performance in Night meant to me. So I was blown away by your performance in Arkham Knight last year, my friend.
Oh,
And
thank you. I was so proud of that.
you really blew me
I was
away.
so proud of
So
that.
many levels, so many layers. You went insane in this game, and you were fantastic.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I mean, I've known you for years, and we've talked together. I was like, literally, I didn't think that enough people were talking about your Batman last year.
I
Absolutely
really appreciate it.
Honestly, one of my favorite things about the game is what you brought to that new character, to the character
You're
and
the
that
first
voice.
person that has said that to me. You're the first person that has said that
It
to
was
me.
wonderful.
And I was
Absolutely
so proud of it
wonderful.
because I got to really go out there
Yes.
with that game.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And it was really remarkable because he was such a broken character in that game, And I think the
Absolutely.
Batman from this world, from this Arkham world, he's so broken. He's so devastated. There is a calculation about this character, but it's really deep. And I think that's what you have connected with Bat fans is like it's like we're going back to Neil Adams, and Denny O'Neil kind of dark stuff from the 70s, the hard pivot away from the 60s Batman TV show. There was
Yeah,
totally a vibe there.
I mean, that was completely intentional because we knew, obviously, we knew that our game was going to be VR. It was going to be
Yeah.
it was going to be focused on the MetaQuest 3 and the 3S, and we were going to transport players and deliver that fantasy as being Batman. So, what kind of story are we going to tell? We could very well could tell a story about all the amazing rogues gallery, which we do,
Yeah.
but you don't step in the shoes of those characters as much as because you are Batman in this game. You are Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne, right? You are all
You're
these
in your
different
head.
personas,
Yeah.
and that's what we need to focus on. And we didn't know it at the time, but when we launched in 2024, there was there was going to be a little bit of a dearth of Batman focused content. Because you've got Gotham Knights, which focus on other characters rather than Batman. You had the Suicide Squad game, which is not a Batman focused
Nope.
game, obviously. You've got the Penguin series, which is amazing, but it's about the Penguin. It's not about Batman. And then you've got Joker 2. So it actually was like almost the perfect timing for us because we can approach somebody and say, hey, you want to become Batman and do something that's where we go really deep into this character, into his flaws, into his strengths, and put him through the ringer as a character and come out the other side with a story that's meaningful.
Yeah.
Here you go. And it's bundled with the hardware for free. And let's go. So it's been a fun past month and a half.
In terms of the game kind of working and clicking for you, you had these stumbles and these come to Jesus moments, I'm sure, along the way to kind of figure and find the right direction. But what was working and when did it start working and when did it click that you knew you had it? You had this. Was it the combat? Was it the detective stuff that you were doing? Was it the intricate storytelling and the flashback sequences? What was making it like it's working? Let's believe, let's stay on the course.
Yeah, we've got like young Anakin Skywalker, like it's working, and what he was writing there was the combat.
Yeah.
That was working, and
Yeah.
that was always working. And that was the thing that gave me the most pause when I got the phone call
Yeah.
initially about doing this project. Is like, what do you think about doing a new entry in the Arkham franchise built for VR? You guys could do it,
That's
right?
a huge phone call. Oh my God, man.
Huge phone call. You would think, and then I hang up. I'm like, well, thanks for thinking of us. I'll get back to you, Mr. Oculus Studios.
Yeah.
And then I go over to the design pit and I say, guys, they want us to do Arkham. We can't. You can't bring the Arkham classic free flow rhythm based combat to VR. You can't. And then Ryan Darcy, design director, tells me, well, basically, you're an idiot. Of course, we can do it. Well, look what we just did with Iron Man, and everybody said you
Yeah.
can't fly around and shoot around like Iron Man in VR and make it a
Yes.
comfortable experience. We'll do
Yep.
it with this one, and by taking inspiration from Beat Saber, Super Hot, the rhythm based. The proof is in the pudding. You played it. Like the team completely executed on it, and they executed on it very early on development through a prototype,
Wicked.
which was so important because I could depend on the combat, the core locomotion, all of the game, the way the game was going to look with our art direction, our incredible artists. So many things were working for the project throughout, from start to finish. The thing
Yeah.
that shouldn't surprise anybody who works on story-based games, the thing that was just not clicking throughout most of the development was the story,
Right.
and it just had to kind of come together at the end. And it was only because we had the core locomotion and everything and the combat working that we were able to focus our attention on what wasn't working at the time.
And it's amazing because as fun as all of that is, and how much it works to play,
Yeah.
and I want to talk a little bit about that in a second here. But as fun as all of that is, it is the story that makes it the game. It is the story that makes it resonate now forever.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
touch
you.
point for VR and as part of the Arkham franchise. It just belongs right alongside of it. And that's almost the Nintendo way that you guys did this. You did all the gameplay and then figured out the story as you were cruising along.
Yeah, it was something that we learned from Iron Man, where I feel like we're so proud of Iron Man, but could
Yep.
the combat have more variety? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could we have gone deeper with the mechanics? Absolutely. And
Yep.
and I think that's one thing that we knew early on with Arkham Shadows. We had to nail the combat, not just the first 30 minutes or the first hour or the first 2 hours, but across the 10 to 12 hour campaign. And
Right.
the team went as far as mapping every single combat encounter in Arkham Asylum to a spreadsheet, and then studying the flow of that game, which in my opinion is one of the best flowing, best paced
Yes.
video games of all time.
Big time.
And
You feel like
we didn't
such a
map it.
badass by the end. I
And you
know.
do.
Yeah.
It's like it finishes right when you're ready for it to finish. It doesn't finish too early. It doesn't finish too
Nope.
late. It's so
Yeah.
good. So we mapped our game not one to one, but we really studied it. And the team, that was like a good foundation baseline that we had. Again, while myself and the writers, we just fought so hard to bring this whole story together. When you have all these different separate threads that have to come together for that conclusion. And so, yeah, and obviously you finish the game, and when it all kind of comes together, that's when the magic, I think, really plays out, and
Yeah.
people, I hope, will remember the game for a long time. And it seems like it has made an impact on people, which is great.
Oh, absolutely, brother. When do you think you kind of locked it then? Like 6 months ago or 3 months ago? When do you think it was like ready to rock?
Oh, I mean, I without getting too much into it, most of the performance, all of the performances that you witness in this game were recorded this year.
Wow. Holy crap. Oh my God. And it is that story that resonates that you're just going to be thinking about and the decisions you made and the overhead cams on the flashbacks and all that stuff. Very,
Everything.
very shrewd, very smart. And I have to say too about Iron Man, it is really fun that we get to fly around and get into the combat. And it was very, rewarding to do that. But what made it a really cool game is that you guys went the extra mile to embellish all of this threaded story and plot line ripped right from comic pages and, with characters that were maybe not super well known from the movies or whatever. You guys kind of embellished and built us a great comic story that we got to be a part of. I think that's why that game is so freaking fun. It's like you guys remember that the best video games have us thinking about them even when we're not playing them. You know, we're playing them in our memories, we're playing them as we're playing them in our minds. And I was certainly doing that with Arkham Shadow, but Iron Man 2, you know, I was definitely thinking about the story and what Tony was going through and his relationships with the was it Gunsmith?
Yeah, Gunsmith. Yeah, you remember well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Pepper and all that stuff, man. It was really cool. You guys really delivered on that stuff. And that's honestly that's why these famous properties are so bloody important to VR. I think it's like you've got a lot of the groundwork and you can embellish and transport the player into something somewhat familiar and then play with their head a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about is something that I knew we had to execute on from day one, which was making it a real video game. It can't feel like a demo. It can't feel like an experience. Thankfully, I
Nope.
think that because that reputation for VR, I think is in the rearview mirror now. I think there have been
Yeah.
enough games out there. You
Yeah.
look at the Game Awards and the nominations for all the titles this year.
Yep.
There's no demos in there. There's no 3-hour experiences in there anymore. That's a thing of the past. But it was due to teams like us committing to no, we're making a real video game.
Yeah.
And there was a moment. I don't remember exactly when it was. Maybe it was in July or August where I was so just in that monitor over there. I'm playing the game. I've got Matt Walker, producer, next to me. I've got Bill Green in London, beaming in, watch me play. We're reviewing the game every night, and I'm in the courtyard area of the game, and I just unlocked one of the gadgets, and I'm thinking to myself, and so as I'm driving home, I'm thinking, wait a second. I didn't use one of the gadgets to unlock one of those secret areas in the courtyard that you kind of traverse between each night of the game. I should have picked that thing up. And I thought to myself, who cares? It's a mid-development build. My save file is going to be deleted anyway tomorrow. But the fact that I was thinking about it, the way that
Yes.
you're talking about it, tell me that,
Yep.
oh, we are kind of dipping into that magic of those previous Arkham titles, of that
Yes.
kind of Metroidvania, that sense of progression, where it's a real video game. Again, I keep saying it, but it's not just a amusement park ride that VR used to be, years back.
One of my favorite parts about the game is traveling through the game and using the grapple hook and being able to zip right up. It's just so effortless. And I've a few questions along this path here, but did you guys start with a city kind of motif to begin with? Were we going from skyscraper? We have a little bit at the beginning of the game, but was that ever an idea, or were you guys
No.
always thinking we're going to be isolated inside Blackgate?
We were always going to be isolated. We were always going to be Arkham Asylum inspired, where we're going to be more contained. We were never going to allow the player to fly around the city, but we knew that the first chapter of the game was going to have to be set in Gotham City, and we had to deliver that fantasy. And
Yeah.
that's when one of my team members, our art director, Matt Core, came up with this idea of what he pitched called a Gotham dungeon. And what that meant is that we're not delivering the full open world like city and night, but we need to deliver the fantasy of it or the feeling that you're in Gotham City. So we are going to kind of have this facade of a larger city, but your focus is what's in front of you. And the team, I think, did a really fantastic job of you
They
still
did.
feeling like you're Gotham. You
Yeah.
still have your sense of freedom, but it's also more linear than the rest of the game because we are still teaching the player all of
Yeah.
our core mechanics of Arkham. So I thought that whole chapter turned out really, really well.
Oh, it was wild, man. I really, really liked it. I played with everything full open, because I've got my sea legs with VR. And I imagine most people that are reviewing the game and talking about the game in a public way probably play it that way. But I'm curious about the feedback that you got from the comfort modes and the comfort settings playing the game that way. Like I played it standing up, and I talked about that in my review, and I had a few people saying you should have a swivel chair, and you can, because there were a couple times where I was like, "Geez, I've been standing here listening to these people
I
for a
remember,
long time."
yeah.
But
I wish I could have been there with you, Vic, and said, no, you could sit down during the interrogation scene. It's all good. But I felt
No, I was just standing the whole time. I was like, my guy is standing right there, sitting right there. But
Yep.
have you been hearing from people that play it a little more gingerly, with like going the 90 degrees option and stuff like that? What's the feedback been?
So for us, one of the reasons I think we were tapped on the shoulder to do this game is because I think we proved that amongst most VR developers, Camouflaj is among the best in terms of delivering comfortable experiences where we can have action, but it still feels great. And it's something that the team has just always felt, has always made a high priority throughout development. Not at the end, it was at the beginning. And we are always so careful about it
Right.
and very
That's so
thoughtful about it.
Nintendo. That's it.
Yeah,
That
I
is
guess it
it,
is very
right?
Nintendo of us too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could see it in our comfort settings, which are it's almost encyclopedic in breadth. And and so yeah, a big reason why we did it is not not only because we want it to be a comfortable experience for players who are curious about who come out and want to buy the game, or who are fans of Arkham, but we have this responsibility because the game is packaged in free with all
It's the
Quest
first
3
VR game,
and
right?
Quest 3Ss out there, with the US dollar price point of Quest 3S at $299. It's such an amazing deal for the holidays, and it's packaged in through April next year. So we know we're gonna have lots of players who are like, hey, this is a new I might not even play Arkham, but I'm interested in Batman. I'm going to play this game that came packaged with the hardware, and we need it to feel great.
Yeah.
And we need it to be comfortable. So that's a big reason why we invested so much into the accessibility and the comfort options of the game.
Have you had people review all of that stuff and dig into that? Are there videos about the comfort options and playing it with what do they call it when you
Oh, with the vignetting, or there's the snap turns and there's the vignetting.
Yeah, snap turns and vignetting. Yeah. Do you have people that focus on that stuff? Yeah, because I feel like all of us nerds that love this stuff are playing like full on, and we're running everywhere and we're zipping. I mean, that's the dream, right? You want to feel like you've put the cowl on and you're whipping around like that.
Yeah, and I want to be careful about, I don't want to paint a picture where comfort settings are a thing of the past. Like, they will always be there. But one thing that we need to remind ourselves about the state of VR and MR in 2024 is that it's not what it was in 2016 with those DK1 dev kits, where the frame rate was low, the refresh rate on the lenses, the resolution was low, the headset was heavy. What we have now is that I think actually I don't have data to back this up. I have a suspicion that a lot of people think that they can't handle VR and they turn on the comfort settings really high, but they don't know that because they had a bad experience maybe 8 years ago or 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. But they don't know that actually if you use the Quest now with those lenses and how light it is and how much we care about the frame rate and all the other technology that goes into it, it's actually just a much more comfortable experience by default because of the hardware.
Just
gotten
the
much
lack
better.
of a cable is just so freaking huge. You know, when Iron Man was put on the Quest, it was like, oh my God. I mean, I loved it on PlayStation VR 1. We talked about it back then, but tethered VR is just it feels like an anachronism now. It just feels like something that shouldn't be, you know. There should be more solutions and we've talked a little bit about that too in the past, like being able to stream off of more advanced hardware and stuff. But yeah, the Quest is a remarkable piece of hardware, but it also does have its limitations. And I'm curious in terms of like raw horsepower, was that one of the biggest challenges that you guys said? You had this pretty massive property, big scope, huge ambition. Were you running into brick walls or pitfalls or have to make some serious cuts because of any hardware limitations with the Quest 3?
You know, you have to take what I have to say with a grain of salt because I am now officially a full-time employee of Meta. You know, we're a first-party studio within Meta. But, I mean, you know me, I'm honest. And I think most people that watch my interviews, they know I'm very, very honest about things. The Quest 3 hardware is very powerful. We struggled like you would with any other project, but not exceptionally or like because it's a difficult piece of hardware to develop for. Like some of the other, I won't name names, but there's been hardware that's been classically known as being hard to develop for. In my experience, Quest 3 has been some of the easiest for us to develop for because I think the team at Meta that is on the hardware team, this is not their first rodeo. This is an iteration on an iteration on iteration. That Snapdragon Gen X2 chip is very powerful. In fact, I know that if we were told we had to make a city-like game, I actually think the hardware is capable of doing that. I don't think in other words, I don't think we pushed it to its limit. I think there's a lot of headroom left on the Quest 3, which gets me just really excited as a player to know what developers are going to be pushing out in 25 and 26 and so on and beyond.
Is there an appetite with the studio to continue on with the Arkham story?
I mean, we love working in Arkham. I fell in love with this franchise more than I ever thought I would, and I know I can speak for the team that they feel the same way. But the proof is in what we're doing right now in terms of like how we're thinking about next steps, which is we're not on a sequel. We're not working on our next Camouflaj project, regardless of if it's Arkham or not. We're actually fully dedicated to Arkham Shadow for the next who knows how many months. We've already released a massive update just a few weeks ago with 1.1 that addressed a lot of the bugs. Some of them I'm sure you hit. We fixed so many bugs, lots of quality of life improvements. And then just, in December this month, we're adding the character view into the game. We're adding more challenge maps. We're fixing more issues, more quality of life improvements. And then in January, we've got a huge update with New Game Plus. And then also we're even looking into February, perhaps with like more content. We've got we've got story content that we're putting in the game. We're just putting more. We have original challenge maps we're putting in the game. We have all 75 team members of Camouflaj working on Arkham Shadow. What developer gets to say that they don't have to spin their team off to another project, or everybody's just on this game and trying to make it as good as possible within all the time that leadership has given us.
That's kind of the history with the Arkham games as well, right? Like Rocksteady was very good at supporting their games with new challenge things, DLC, the costumes. I think they just updated Arkham Knight last year or something.
Amazing.
The Batman.
With Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, incredible. That is inspiring stuff, and that's wonderful to hear. The one thing that is kind of a spoiler. It's not necessarily a spoiler about the game. It's a spoiler about something that I was hoping for that wasn't in the game. I didn't say this in the review, but I love vehicle action inside of VR. I feel like it's a perfect fit. Like Star Wars Squadrons is just such a wonderful. It's a great game, but it's like really great in VR, and it's surprising to me that it's just sitting there. Like more could be done with that. And I've loved flying around, and like Valkyrie was a lot of fun, and Battle Zone was actually kind of cool. I was hoping there would be some kind of hint of a Batmobile sequence in there. Was that ever something that you guys talked about for Shadow?
We never even had it on a piece of paper, having a vehicle. It was to the point you made earlier about the focus, and I think and that's something that I learned a lot from Bill Green, again, from this ex Rocksteady team member we have full time at Camouflaj now, about how Rocksteady was very disciplined in their approach. And you look at it, they had to go how many years and how many Arkham games before they introduced a vehicle. And when they did, they went all in with the Batmobile. And so I try to take inspiration from Rocksteady and try to channel them as best as I could with our focus and our scope. And so, I think like you, I think the fantasy would be really cool. And there times where where I talked about being able to drive the bat boat that you see early on in the game and actually drive it to that sewers dock. That definitely thought about it. But again, I just had to keep reminding myself, Ryan, this is our first Arkham title. It has to be amazing.
Yeah.
Focus on the moment to moment as Batman. Focus on the story. Focus on the Metroidvania as Asylum style structure of the game, and then everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna deliver a great game like the Rocksteady guys did. So I was really channeling them the entire time.
It is amazing that there is that track record. That sort of looking back in time. I don't know if Rocksteady knew what they were doing with the way they laid it down, but they did the right thing, And I remember seeing that game at I think E3 2007 or whatever, and saying that's the game of the year right there. And nobody, for whenever it was coming out, and all the other journalists that I was chatting with were like, "It's a Batman game, man. It's it's just another licensed thing." I was like, "Nope,
exactly,
nope."
I have two
very
quick
special.
things I want to. I have two quick things I want to say about that. One is that I remember exactly where I was in 2009, early 2009, with an respected industry person who I won't name over dinner, and we were talking about Arkham Asylum came up for some reason. Same thing. It was we both dismissed it. Oh, another licensed Batman game. That game's not going to be good. And
because we had so
many
many crap ones for so long. Like the pile is massive of Batman games that were super squandered, Yeah.
And so that took everybody by surprise when it came out in August 2009, right? And also, I think the the skeptics weren't entirely like their skepticism was entirely misplaced.
No,
These
no.
these Rocksteady guys, they had done one other
Right.
previous game, Urban Chaos,
Yes.
which was
Yep.
fine.
Cool
But you
game.
play Arkham
Yep.
Asylum, like where did this? And you look at the time that they had and the
Yeah.
team size they had.
Yes.
So incredible, so just remarkable what they were able to deliver.
It's amazing because this is like truly an echo of that. And it feels like that. The game feels like that. It feels also like you and the other leaders at the studio took some real time to kind of think about that, think about that onus and that responsibility that you had. Did you ever connect with Jamie and Sefton at all about any of this stuff at all? Or
No, we tried to respect what the structure was that we had,
yeah.
that Warner wanted us to respect, and I was more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I was channeling, like I felt like Jamie and Sefton to an extent were on my shoulders, kind of whispering in my ears,
Yeah.
and I actually, this is kind of embarrassing. I at one point I transcribed a lot of things that Sefton said in interviews. And I put into a document, and I had
That's
a
not
reminder
embarrassing, man. Like honestly,
every
this
3
is what
months.
this is about. We got to learn from what people have done before and respect the communications around this. That's incredible that you did that.
So every 3 months, I would just look back and just remind myself of the different things that he would share publicly
Yeah.
about the development process. And he's that doesn't do a lot of interviews, especially now these days. So I looked at every single thing that he did publicly as something that was really special and really important for me to learn from. So this game has been a massive education for us at Camouflaj. We not only learned everything as we could about Arkham, which thankfully the fans, I think, have responded really positively. Even the most hardcore fans that care about the dates of like the different timelines of the
All the games.
most hardcore off-screen characters.
Right.
We got it all right, which is a testament to the team. And yeah, so.
Did you create a living Bible or something like that? Do you have like something that gets updated now and might get shared through Warner Brothers Interactive proper? Or how
I
did you
wish
keep
we were
all of
that
that in track?
organized.
Yeah.
I think it was all in my head and everybody else's head. And I pity the team too, because I'd be sitting here on or on a flight with the Steam Deck, and I'm playing through all the Arkham games repeatedly. Just that's
Right.
all I played, Vic,
Yes.
for the last
Yeah.
few years. I just
Yeah.
stopped playing everything else. I'm just playing Arkham all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm noticing these Easter eggs and these like little details. Or this asset that I really like. I'm like, can we make an asset that's like this asset from Arkham Knight in the game? Screenshot. Thousands of screenshots. They get
That's
sent
awesome.
out to the team with like my annoying pink circle over it. Can I has water bottle that looks like.
Well, that's what's cool about the game too, is that it stacks on collectibles, just like the Arkham games have always done. You think you've got a bead on everything
Yep.
you're supposed to collect and discover,
right.
and they're like, nope. Now you've got you've got some new what did you call them? Oh God,
The Echo, maybe?
the echoes, and then also the words on the walls.
Oh, the ancient runes.
The runes, yeah. It's amazing. It's just like little onion layer coming off, onion layer
much of
coming
that.
off, and threaded and tied to what we've done before. You didn't throw in Riddler trophies or anything like that, but lots of doors open for longtime fans, and also for us to think about more. For us to think about more, and where else you guys can go with this.
I mean, it really was a very thick love letter to
Yeah.
Rocksteady and Warner Brothers Montreal for this franchise, for not only just for Batman, but for Arkham in particular.
Yeah.
And the team, I think it's fair to say that there were team members who were skeptical of the degree of which I was pushing for that, what we called internally authentic Arkham. We had a pillar.
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
to be authentic. It can't mess with the timeline. It has to add to it. It has to respect it. And all the features and the Easter eggs and everything. And there were some team members that earlier on in development were like, do we really need to do this, Ryan? Is it really that important? And I kept saying that, like, just trust me. Trust me. The Arkham fan base, even though there hasn't been an Arkham game since 2016, is still alive and vibrant, and they care.
Yeah.
And even the most skeptical people they changed their minds, and they would come to me, and kudos to them, where they say, hey, I was wrong, and thank you for pushing for this.
Yep.
To be fair, I'm always telling them I'm wrong, so it goes both ways. But
Yep.
but when we announced the game on May 1st with a teaser trailer, and it kind of took over the internet for a day, for good and bad reasons, because of which
It
we can
being a
go into if you're
VR.
interested.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't exactly what the people were looking for, but where are all these millions of people coming from who are watching this
Yeah.
video and watching this
Yeah.
trailer?
I mean, that's the power
These
of a known entity, right?
are the passionate Arkham fans that care. If you've
Yeah.
got the timeline of Cyrus Pinckney correct,
Yeah.
threaded through Arkham Asylum and Arkham Origins and everything, that we just worked so painstakingly to make sure that it was all authentic and good. And once that happened, everybody on the team was all in and like, wait, how can we infuse this game with even more Arkham? So the last 6 months were really fun. We're
Killer.
just again, like I said, it's a huge, thick love letter to Arkham.
Well, I mean, you brought it up right there, talking about playing the Arkham games on the Steam Deck, and that's what happens with eternal games like this.
Yeah,
They port, you revisit them over and over again. They are enhanced. Like Night on the Steam Deck went through so much work on PC, had so many
you're
problems,
right.
but now it actually runs better on the Steam Deck than it does on a PlayStation 5 Pro, which is crazy, in terms of frame rates. But it's a solid PC experience, and they are so replayable. One of my big critiques about VR is just this exclusionary sort of attitude, and I know it's technologically based, where you've got software here and it's not available there. We saw PSVR 1 titles dropped out of PSVR 2's library, which I still think is a major mistake. But I'm wondering, as we are maturing in the way that games for VR are getting made, are you guys sort of building in the idea that this is a portable experience? Like you'll be able to bring this to future hardware and it will be enhanced, and you've got higher res textures banked away, or is this something that we're going to see live on other machines? And that's the question that I have under my review from a lot of people. I wish
Yeah,
it was here. I wish it was there.
look, I understand, and I'm very sympathetic to the most commonly asked question, to the people who are asking this most commonly asked question about Batman Arkham Shadow, which is it coming to a different platform? Is it coming to PC VR? Is it coming to PlayStation VR 2?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the answer I have to continue to give is no. But before I explain why, I do want to say, like, genuinely, that I think it's one of the most complimentary questions we could ever get, which is what
Right.
people are basically saying is, I'm
Yep.
very interested in this game that you guys work so hard on, and I really want to play it.
Yes.
And I want to play it on hardware that I already own, and I get that. I really do. The thing that, to get into the reason why it's exclusive to the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S, is because the reason why my studio, Camouflaj, and the other 6 or 7 or 8 studios also that are part of Oculus Studios, part of Meta, these first party studios, are we're assembled to create content primarily for the Quest device, to convince people to jump into the ecosystem. And thankfully, I can do it with a big smile on my face, because we're not asking people to just jump into the Quest 3 and then play Batman and then you have nothing left to do. There's so much
Yeah.
good content out there that,
Yes.
and the price point is so attractive, especially with the Quest 3S being at $299, and the game comes bundled with it, and you get 3 months of the Quest Plus subscription service where you get all these other games. It's such a great value that I can say, hey, look, I understand that you want it for the other hardware, but if you're interested, you already are interested in VR, you really
Yeah.
got to jump into the Quest ecosystem, because there is exclusive content. There will continue to be exclusive content. And then finally, the last thing I say is, like, I think it's better to think about us like you keep saying Nintendo, and that's
Yeah.
such a compliment, but
Yeah.
it's the same question. Like, oh, is Breath of the Wild coming out for Switch and then eventually for other platforms? No, it's not, because they want you to buy a Switch, and we want you to buy a Quest 3 and a Quest 3S, and we think that. We think it's worth it, and we think we've created a great piece of hardware, a great piece of software, and there's more great software coming down the pike.
How's it doing? And what's the response from Meta and the higher ups? I know Meta's got all of these different divisions and different products and stuff out there. When you have a Batman thing that you can point to, it's pretty cool, no matter what it is.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the word from Meta brass?
Well, yeah, I think they're very happy with the response to the game, and I think really proud of what the team at Camouflaj was able to do, and also the other internal studios that helped us deliver this game. Because
Yeah.
you mentioned those long credits. It wasn't
Yes.
just us. It was
Yeah.
we had to flip on the bat
Sanzaru
signal.
was in there, right?
Cinzaro, yeah, that worked on Asgard's Wrath 2 last year. That was
Yeah.
their game. They some of
Ready
their
at Dawn?
animators. Yeah, so some of their animators from Cinzaro helped us out. Amazing, incredible staff.
Yeah.
Some Ready at Dawn folks did help out as well. From Downpour, we had a talented gentleman from Armature help us out for the last
Amazing.
year
And
or
they've got
so.
Arkham history as well.
And
That's
they
so
have Arkham
cool.
History. It was so fun to talk to them about that too.
Man, that's amazing.
So that was it.
Yeah.
We couldn't have launched this game at this quality without
Yeah.
on that date without the internal teams, and so we're really proud of that. And then we did our accolades trailer just came out, so we've got all these 9s out of 10s, and we've got the Electric Playground review up there too, and so it's so the brass sees that too, and I think they're just really proud. And then we have the Game Awards, and we have our big nomination for VR Game of the Year. So yeah, I don't think we could be happy with the reception of the game so far.
Yeah, the only bummer I see around the Game Awards is that once again it's relegated to VR, and it's honestly one of the best games of the year. It's one of the most transportive video game experiences that you can have in 2024. And I know the medium will get there. I also know that. Some of the exclusionary tactics that are a part of the VR thing are keeping stuff locked away, and you're kind of having to make a bet on what hardware to go. But you make an excellent point that Meta is not only providing really good hardware and software to kind of match up with it, but also it's pretty affordable. It's like literally
so easy to jump in.
Yeah, you got a game that's worth $100 basically, and you're paying a couple hundred more, and you've got all of this hardware and extra games and all kinds of other stuff in
and
there.
all
It's
this
pretty
great
cool.
content that's coming out, and everything to celebrate. But yeah, Vic, I'm a very competitive guy, and
Yeah.
the fact that we didn't get nominated for Game of the Year, I look at that as like, okay, well, that's what we need to do for our next title, and there's probably gonna be somebody that beats us to the punch. It's just a matter of time before
Yeah.
a
VR game gets nominated for.
fantastic last year. Half-Life Alyx probably should have been nominated for Game of the Year in 2020.
Hell yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, and yeah, this medium continues to grow, continues to get stronger, and so
Where you guys took it another level, though, is that it's more of a game even than Half-Life Alyx is. Half-Life Alyx and a lot of VR content there's a lot of like, whoa, I would joke about that with EP. Like every time we would preview a VR person, they'd have the headset on, they'd go, whoa, all the games are like that, which is great. But you're Batman in this freaking game. You are playing the game, and you've got the mindset of the way you would play any other Arkham game, except you try not to punch the wall when you're getting into it.
That's right. Yeah, but to your point, I think, as every year goes on, these games are becoming more fleshed out. They feel like more like console games that have been reimagined and leaning into the core strengths of the medium. And that's what we've been. That's where I think our colleagues at Cinzaro did with Asgard's Wrath 2 last year, which is delivering a
Incredible
100-hour RPG.
Yeah.
Like that was their whole North Star, from what I can tell, was we're going to take these RPGs that you love on console and PC, like Witcher and Fable, and we're going to go do a fully on, like no apologetic, like unapologetically VR game where you are transported to a highly spec'd out and feature rich game. So that I don't see us developers curbing back from 2025 onwards. It's just going to get there's just going to be more and more great content.
Why is that so important for Meta? Why is this reach to transcend and to get us thinking about video games in VR in this new? Why is it so important? Why does Meta want to invest so heavily in this direction? Because Sony's not, and I'm not trying to dog Sony, but they release good hardware and they've kind of let it just go. I mean, we're not playing a VR God of War game. I've been joking recently, like they have all these games with archers in them. They could just make an archery game where you're playing as all of these different characters from all their different. They could make it an Astrobot archery game, and you're playing as all of these different characters. But they're not. They're not doing it. Meta is investing.
Well, I know you're sensitive to the exclusivity thing, and I have to say, like one of the games that's exclusive to PlayStation VR 2 that I really enjoyed playing this year, but I think it came out in January, was Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Yeah,
the VR version was so good. So I know that people want more content on the PlayStation VR 2, but I'm a very happy. I guess you can't see it because it's blocked right now, but a very very happy owner of the PlayStation VR 2. But to answer your question about like why we're doing what we're doing, it's we listen to the consumers. Is that what was it back in when I got the phone call in 2020? Yeah, it was right. This is 20. It was 4 years ago. It was, hey, we can't go into the details, but here at Meta, where it was Oculus Studios, and we know that people are done with the demo experiences, the short experiences. They're telling us they want real games. And so we're calling you and we're calling other studios. And at the time I didn't know, but they were already working on Resident Evil 4 with Armature for Quest 2.
Right.
They were working on Asgard's Wrath 2. And they're working on other titles that are being developed right now that haven't been announced. These larger titles. And it was just all based on the feedback that the company was getting that, hey, we're ready for real games now. And
Right on.
big credit to the Oculus Studios leadership with Gio and the production leadership from Mike Doran and everybody over there who has taken up that mission to deliver the utmost quality content that leans into the hardware, that makes it a really easy decision whether or not you want to put one under like the Christmas tree or whatever you want to do this holiday to deliver on such great content for the hardware.
At that price, it's ridiculous. What do you want to see as a game maker hardware-wise? And now that you're part of Meta and so threaded with the company, are you a part of those discussions? Are you also demoing the future for VR and providing your insight and your wish list back to the hardware manufacturer?
Yeah, we have a really close relationship with the hardware team, which is one of the best things about being first party.
That's very
I got to
Nintendo again.
experience. It's very Nintendo, and honestly, it was actually very Xbox too, because as you mentioned at the start of the show, I was on Halo 4. I was creative director on that for a while, and that was really fun, is to be part, like having meetings with the hardware team about what would eventually become the Xbox One and what do we need as developers. And so, but quite frankly, developers are pretty straightforward group of people. They're going to ask for more power, more memory, and that's what we're always asking for. But and we know that the hardware team over there is just going to continue to invest in the lenses and making sure that it's a light and comfortable experience for players, and that the controllers continue to get better and better. So they're pretty straightforward conversations. We just want more power because we want to do bigger games and more beautiful things. But yeah, we have nothing but good things to say about the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S. In fact, I was a little nervous about the Quest 3S when I first heard about it, because I was excited about the price point, but I wasn't sure how it was going to feel having gotten used to the Quest 3 and those pancake lenses that they have. But when we got the dev kits for the Quest 3S and I put it on, I was like, wait a second, this is really good at this price point. So big kudos to that team for shipping that hardware this year as well.
Hey, I don't have the S, but I have the 3, and it is a remarkable piece of tech, man. And it just keeps getting better and better with all the enhancements and the improvements, and then
so good.
Games like Batman coming out. I'm curious about you specifically. Like, one of the thoughts that I had playing Batman. I mean, I want more Batman,
Yeah,
and I know you can't answer.
Fan.
Yeah, I do. But, you've got Metal Gear background. Like, when you have a game that comes out that's successful like this, is there an aspiration to grow the studio and have a couple of different games running at the same time? Or are you focused just on one game at a time? And do you know what you want to do as a next game already? Or are you guys, building up to that?
Well,
because the thing that I threw out there, and I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I think it would be incredibly cool. Metal Gear Solid 1 is a game that is in such a need of a refreshment. The game was incredible, but it just needs new camera angles and a new take. And when you're playing through the stealthy stuff and Shadow, it's like, holy shit, you could really do an incredible VR Metal Gear Solid and even use that old retro look, but change everything up so that you're in the viewpoint of Snake. It would be incredible.
I mean, you found my script, because I've told that to lots of VR developers too. It's like, hey, somebody's got to work with the Konami team, because even with that classic look, because there was a mod that somebody did that I saw online that was getting a lot of pickup, which first person VR within that world, but had that kind of PlayStation 1 look that's kind of like back in fashion now. I think that
Yep.
would be really, really terrific. But as far as like what we're gonna do and how I'm approaching things, um, again, kind of going back to what Sefton was saying about Rocksteady, he was very strict about being a one project studio.
Yep.
I've always known that was the better approach. Like that would increase our chances of delivering something great. But that
Yep.
wasn't always in the cards for us because I had to keep the lights on for Camouflaj when it was an independent studio. But now that we're part of Meta, we don't know what kind of phone calls we'll get and say, hey, can you help on this thing? We help on this thing. We always try to help out with internal projects, but wherever
Yeah.
possible, I'm hoping that we can just focus our attention, not grow really big, just focus our attention on the next project, learn from what we learned, like our mistakes on Arkham Shadow, and then lean into the core strengths of what we delivered. And I firmly believe that whatever we do next will be our next best game, because we just continue to learn and grow, and that's what makes this really fun.
That's awesome. Okay. I know it's like I want to know what you want to do next, but that's too much of a lead up to a soft announce, and I don't want to put you in
Well,
that.
but I mean, in the short term, Vic, I'm being completely honest. If you want to know what I want to work on, I want to keep working on
Arkham
this
Shadow.
game.
Yeah.
Like I'm still
Yeah.
in the headset, playing through it and going and sending the team annoying notes. Like, and let's see, between October 21st when we launched the game and when we launched 1.1, right before what was it? Right before the Thanksgiving holiday in the States. So roughly 4 weeks had taken had surpassed. We
Yeah.
had checked. The team had checked in new content in the game 7,000 times
Wow.
and closed out 1,300 tasks and tickets and bugs.
Wow.
1,300 over the course
Wow.
of 4 weeks. That's the team saying, hey, we're tired, but we love working on this game. We want it to be as good as possible.
It
So
must
we're going
be
to
so
rest at the end of the
invigorating
year.
to see the audience out there too, just firing this thing up and sending you guys a stream of ideas and feedback.
Yep.
And, they've got all this love and passion, and you just want to be there with those guys, right? Like you just want to
And we
deliver to
are.
everybody. Yeah.
And we are. We're right there on Discord, on Twitter, and all that other places that we're hanging out. And we're directly talking to consumers. And they'll send us, whether they hit a bug or they have an idea, and we will follow up with them like, hey, can you give us more context? And like, let's. And now that we've updated, can you play it and tell us what you think? That is
Yeah.
very much modern video game development. And
Yeah.
and I was this over the weekend. I was listening to an interview with the team behind Star Wars Outlaws, and how dedicated they are to
Yep.
improving that
Great game. Yep.
And I felt like they're doing this. We're doing the same thing. It's like let's just make this thing as good as possible and just celebrate it. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, I think people have an awareness out there, but games just they're so complex, they're so complicated, and they even if they're not sort of positioned as a live service game, there's still so much that can be tweaked and improved. It's the blessing and the curse of our internet connected video
That's right.
game experiences. But it's amazing. You can see these things just keep changing and keep growing and keep getting better and better. Brother, I couldn't be prouder of you. I couldn't be
No,
more
thank you.
happy for the success. When does it not become an attached game with the Quest?
So yeah, the game is free bundled with Quest 3 and Quest 3S all the way through April of 2025. So you've got another
2025.
five months or so to jump into the game, and just note that you can find me on X and other in Discord, and we have all these places you can connect with me. And if you've got feedback or questions or things you want us to address, because we're going to do V1 1.2 this month, V1.3 next month, and then who knows 1.4, 1.5. Who knows how far we're going to go? But it's a good time to jump into the game, and we'll continue to make it better. And it's a conversation with the community.
Awesome. Have you guys got a new story DLC possibly percolating?
We're not going to do a big story DLC thing like the Rocksteady guys did with Night, which was unbelievable. They did something cool with City as well.
Yeah,
but
they did.
What we are doing is we have some content that didn't make it into the game at launch, and we have a new post credits cinematic that we are finalizing right now. That's going to be launching in our 1.3 update in January. And
So the new
that's
game
gonna
plus
answer-
update?
It's going to be along with New Game Plus, so it'd be kind of an
Right.
excuse to come back and play the game again. And then when
Yes.
you get,
Yeah.
but you don't have to play New Game Plus to get the new cinematic. But at the very end, post credits, it answers a bunch of questions that the community has about a specific character. I don't know if you remember this rat that you beat up in the projector room in Gotham City,
Yeah.
who's got some Nightwing-esque moves to him, but that can't be
Yes.
Nightwing. That couldn't be Dick Grayson. That couldn't be Dick Grayson,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And so we've got a cinematic that kind of ties the bow of that storyline, and I think is the best way to end Bruce and Batman's arc in the story through that scene. So it's not super long, but I think it allows us to kind of just write the final few pages of the story that we've been telling, and I can't wait to get it out to people.
Man, I can't wait to play it again. What's better, Marvel or DC?
So I thought the hard question was going to be exclusivity, but you brought in like Can I say I love them both? Can I say that I'm very lucky that I got to work on? So if you asked me what my 10 years ago, Vic, or 15 years ago when working on Metal Gear, if you would have asked me what are your two top three superheroes, I'd say, okay, I tied for second, probably Iron Man and Wolverine, and number one, Batman. I've always loved Batman. And what the heck? I get to work on both Iron Man and Batman in my career. And now I'm just super excited for Wolverine and what the Insomniac guys are doing. So I can't wait to play that game.
Oh my God,
So,
I can't wait. I know.
very
I've
lucky.
always had this idea around superheroes, and partially because of the success of Arkham, right? And then the Spider-Man games have been great for a long time. Most of what we play in video games, we are superheroes. You know, most often we have these superhero
That's right.
heroic abilities, and we're so familiar now because of superheroes across so much culture that now is the perfect time to have more of these. And actually, this leads into my question: is you guys don't have limitless bandwidth to make every superhero game out there, and everybody's going to want more Batman from you guys. And I think that's going to be the question for you and the team about whether you do that or you do something else. But what superhero property do you think is perfectly suited for VR that maybe another team can be inspired to pitch it to Meta or Sony or another partner or something like that out there to get that made?
Well, I think the outside of the questions about platform, like when is Arkham Shadow coming to other platforms? Like besides
Yeah.
that question, one of the more common notes I get online is about Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
and look, that's not my call, obviously, and I think Sony and Marvel clearly have a strong relationship when it comes to Spider-Man.
It's working. Yeah.
And it's working out for them. It seems to be going out pretty well for them. But about Spider-Man and VR, all I will say is that I think maybe I don't even think people would have suggested it a number of years back because I didn't think it could be a comfortable experience in VR. But I would say,
Yeah.
hey, if any developer ever there tackled a Spider-Man VR game, I actually think you could do it in a way that
I think so.
is comfortable, that feels great, that looks great, that plays great. So I hope as a player, as a fan, that I get to play that at some point. I know
my
that there was
God.
like a small experience that was released a number of years back, but like a
Yes.
full-fledged Spider-Man VR game, I think would be awesome.
There's a shooter. I think it's called Resist or something like that.
Yeah,
where
yeah, you got it,
Is that
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You could jump up, and it had a Spider-Man kind of vibe to it. It was pretty cool.
It did.
And if it could make you feel a little motion sick, though, if you played it. I haven't tried it on the Quest 3. I should go back to that. But brother, man, I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you.
The next time I'm in Tokyo, I'm definitely going to be giving you a call and coming to see the space and give you a hug and a high five, and same with all of your team members out there. I hope you guys do get some. I know you're still cranking and you're still stamping out bugs and dealing with everything, but I hope you get some rest time and a little time to kind of like really chart your destiny, because I think you guys have written a ticket for yourselves as well, right? You've proven something very profound and big with this game that you have built, just like Rocksteady did.
Well, thank you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't have done it without friends like you, which you were very kind to not bring this up, but we were so poor. We were so close to closing down so many times that if I had a business trip up in Vancouver, Canada, you lent me your spare bedroom, you and your wife, and allowed me to stay there because I couldn't afford a hotel, and that's how hard it was. But we wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for friends like you that supported me and And so, yeah, I just want to thank you for that and publicly, so people know just how big your heart is and how much you care for developers and for your friends, and that really means a lot.
Oh, bro, we got you, man. You're fam. You know, you're an awesome dude, and I'm just blown away by your success, and God, you deserve it because you bleed for this, man. You always have. It's really
Well,
wonderful to
I
see.
earned it after collecting all of those seemingly broken tapes in the airport at Vancouver, Canada, thinking I just destroyed all of Konami's history of Metal Gear. But yeah, I definitely worked hard. But yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for friends like you and support we've got over the years. So, but thank you, and I'm
We
so glad
always
that you
have
like
it.
the game, and hope that people watch this really like some of the behind the scenes. And thank you for asking all these really thoughtful questions. And in the meantime, we're just gonna get back to work and make this game as good as we can before we have to move on to our next thing.
Awesome, man. Great to see you. Take care of yourself, and I can't wait to see you again in person.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you like conversations like this one, and make sure you're following Ryan Payton on all of the socials. Who knows where the socials are these days, though? Are you on Blue Sky?
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you on
on Blue
everything?
Sky. I'm on Threads now more these days, and yeah, you can find me. It's pretty easy.
Awesome. And check out Arkham Shadow if you haven't played the game. It's phenomenal. Thanks. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.